state of California has become ground zero for the sanctuary crisis in this country. The Immigration Reform Law Institute just released a new investigation into Santa Clara County in the northern part of the state. We're joined today by Jason Hopkins. Jason, tell us what you found in this investigation.
Hey, Brian. Yes, early we decided to look into the level of lack of cooperation in Santa Clara County, California, and just to kind of get the numbers behind what's been going on, because we've seen these pretty gruesome police reports coming out of there, these murders out of there. So we wanted to understand fully the extent of their lack of cooperation. So what we did here at Early is we asked them for the number of ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement detainer requests, how many they've received in the past couple of years, 2019, 2020. Now, for those who don't know, ICE detainer requests, that's when, let's say, an illegal alien or any non-citizen for that matter is arrested by local law enforcement. Their information is run through ICE is alerted, and they say, hey, we actually want this guy. He's violated immigration law. We want to get him in for questioning something. So an ICE detainer request asks them to hold on to that individual for a little bit longer before they're released, if they are allowed to be released, or at the very least ask for some sort of notification to ICE before they are released from these local jails. Now, so what did we find? In 2019, ICE lodged 909 different requests with the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office. In 2020, they asked 848 times for ICE detainer requests. I mean, this is a combined number of almost 2,000, 1,757. And Santa Clara's Sheriff's Office, they did confirm that they ignored every single one of them. In fact, we asked them for the last year that they even honored any ICE detainer request for any individual. They said they couldn't even find the records. It's been that long, or it's that disorganized over there that they don't even have the information. So this is just complete lack of help, lack of cooperation, not even to the most minimal extent. They're just nothing at all.
Mm-hmm. Now, just to help people understand what's at play here, the state of California has a state sanctuary law, SB 54. That's not really what's in play here, if I understand it correctly. It's Santa Clara County's own version of a sanctuary law. By comparison to SB 54, the Santa Clara sanctuary laws are even more extreme. How does the county law differ from the state law?
Right, and that's what makes Santa Clara County so significant here, and why we wanted to look into it. Because perhaps even someone who's generally familiar with immigration debate or the news, they've heard about California's Values Act that was passed just a few years ago. It's a sanctuary city order, no, it's a statewide sanctuary order that basically forces local jurisdictions not to cooperate with ICE. But there are exceptions to this California statewide law, right? They will allow for cooperation if this illegal alien or non-citizen has been not just charged, but convicted of serious or violent crimes. So, I mean, if this is a guy who's been convicted of murder, of rape, something very serious, California finally will say, okay, we'll allow ICE to come in, lodge the detainer, and we will honor it. This was already a very extreme measure, but Santa Clara County has actually taken this even a step further, and they don't allow any sort of exceptions whatsoever. Is this person charged or convicted of rape, of murder, kidnapping, things such as this? Doesn't matter. Still not going to participate with ICE whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've seen this practice in other jurisdictions. California gets a lot of attention because they're just so high profile, but these things exist in many other places. What is the result of this? Because a lot of these anti-borders politicians will defend the practice and say, well, it's not really affecting crime. It's for the community's good as a whole. What do you observe to be the result of this when you're talking thousands of people released who would otherwise be in ICE custody?
Well, yeah, let's talk about real life examples. And again, let's talk about Santa Clara County. Just in late 2020 here, Fernando de Jesus Lopez Garcia, he was arrested for going on a stabbing spree at a church in San Jose, California. Stabbed 5 people, 2, if I'm not mistaken, ended up dying, and this was allegedly committed by him. He was arrested. As it turns out, this is an individual who's not here legally, who's had a history of crime in San Jose and Santa Clara in California. And he's someone who's been sought by ICE every time. He's been arrested numerous times. ICE had launched several detainer requests for him, all of them ignored. They've been ignored. He's been released back into the community. And now what's become of that? He went into a church in November 2020 and went on a stabbing spree, murdered people, allegedly. I mean, that's a real life example. And this is not the first time something like this has happened in Santa Clara County. So we do see who's protected by this. You hear from San Jose leaders who don't like this law and who are saying the only person protected here are the actual criminals. They don't want this, but they're having to deal with the ramifications of it.
Yeah, now in the press release detailing the investigation, which can be found on early.org, there's a reference to the case you just mentioned and another one from 2019, very similar, where someone lost their life as a result of someone who was protected by these sanctuary laws. The ICE agent in question in the case was quoted in the release saying exactly what you just said about how the only person protected in that case was the criminal. How can the anti-borders politicians claim that this law benefits immigrants at large, as many of them do, when we see this kind of thing taking place?
What they do, and what we saw this in Santa Clara County. As I said, this is not the first high-profile case. What we saw when this was debated in 2019 in the county, you had debate on this. You had people wondering, well, is this the right policy? Should we at least allow for some cooperation with ICE? You had a huge number of anti-border activists going to their county supervisors and telling them, essentially claiming that the whole thing's racist. I mean, if you cooperate with ICE, ICE is terrible. They separate families, and it's just, this is creating a stigma for immigrants, and that's basically their whole shtick. What is most striking about this case in Santa Clara County is I was saying how this was debated previously. This is the second time that something like this has happened. You had an illegal alien in 2019 allegedly stabbed to death a 59-year-old woman who was living home alone, Carlos Arevalo Carranza. He was the one who was arrested for stabbing her to death. And it turns out it was largely the same deal. He had a litany of crimes. He had been arrested in and out of jail every time. ICE had actually lodged 9 different detainer requests on him, all of them ignored. Now, it was this murder that prompted county leaders to stop and say, well, let's debate this. Let's see if there's something we can change here. They opened it up for debate, and they ended up voting unanimously not to change the law. And they kept it as the extreme sanctuary policy that it is today. Had they have changed it, because there was talk about allowing some sort of notification to ICE, had they changed it, we likely would not have seen that church stabbing spree about a year later. So these are the real life results of what happens with sanctuary county policy.
Well, that's a really relevant point you bring up, because anyone who's followed this issue, especially in California, knows that state, the politicians there are almost all of one mind. You rarely see an elected official there going against sanctuary laws. And to have, what was it, the mayor of, was it San Jose, and another person asking them to modify the policy, I mean, that's pretty relevant, isn't it? Given that you really have to search far and wide to find a politician in a kind of left-leaning state that's going to criticize a sanctuary policy.
Right, exactly. And you've got this countywide policy here in Santa Clara County, and the cities within this county are forced to abide by it and deal with the consequences. One of those cities is San Jose. It is, I mean, by and large, a very liberal place. They haven't had a Republican mayor there in generations. The Democratic mayor there, Sam Liccardo, back in 2019, when this first high-profile murder took place, he begged the county to please change this law, just allow for some bare minimum notification, make it just similar to what they have in the county, the statewide policy, the California Values Act. And he was not alone. The San Jose Police Chief, Eddie Garcia, also asked for just bare minimum of cooperation. But as we sadly know, the county board of supervisors did not heed his warnings, did not take that into consideration, and have kept the policy in place. And we've since had a second high-profile murder. And then after this occurred, the Mayor Liccardo, he's asked once again, please change this law. Because he's there, he's the mayor of that town, and there's nothing he can do about it. This is going to have to change from county leaders.
Yeah. Now, as we've discussed in previous investigations, there are many jurisdictions that are adopting these sanctuary policies, and many people out there may be living in a sanctuary jurisdiction and aren't even aware of it. How can they find out if their community has these laws, and what, if anything, can they do about it?
I would encourage them to reach out to their sheriff's offices and ask them what exactly is the county law here on this. What is your policy regarding ICE detainer requests? I encourage them to actually reach out to their sheriff's office directly, because one interesting thing about this investigation is when I reached out to Santa Clara County, I asked the records division representative there for this information. I asked them when they changed the policy. She had first sent me the wrong policy, or the wrong ordinance on there. It was actually an outdated ordinance. She didn't even know. And I mean, not to pick on her, I won't have to say her name, but this was her job. And she actually wasn't even sure of the updated policy. And this is someone she's supposed to be an expert on it. So when you have county officials who don't even know, it's really not a surprise that so many citizens don't even know what's happening locally and what their policy is, whether it be countywide or statewide. So I would encourage them to get informed. I mean, reach out to their county leaders, their state leaders, and ask them, what exactly are you doing to help ICE's job to apprehend and deport criminal aliens?
Mm-hmm. One of the best ways that people can stay informed about these kind of things is to go to early.org, because the details of this investigation and all the previous ones we've done are on there. So you can go to early.org, read about this one, going backwards, see the other ones we've done. We've also got other press releases, legal cases we're working on, commentaries, and how to donate, because as you can see by looking at that site, this is an organization that's very deserving of your support given the results that they get. So check out early.org, and also check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. We're on a lot of different social media platforms. So Jason, again, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for the good work on the investigation, and we'll talk to you next time.
Hey, thank you.